is Regis Matthews with the English Institute. I welcome you to today's session, which is different in one way, and that is it is a joint one with the EU Center in Singapore. So I was talking to the director there. I was talking to the director there, Dr. Yo, and we said that there are so many institutes now trying to get your attention that we have a big battle ahead. So occasionally we cooperate like this, and we jointly, and then we get their friends and our friends. So first of all, welcome to this session. Secondly, I thought I must tell you, is this working? Secondly, I thought I must tell you, today is Thaipusam. And for those who are not familiar with it, Thaipusam is a festival. It's an Indian festival. More than that, it is more a Tamil festival. A festival of victory, as always. These festivals are good over evil. And in many parts today, you will see, especially in Malaysia, although it is something celebrated in Tamil Nadu, in India, you will see lots of chariots which will go from temples up to, in the case of Kuala Lumpur, to Batu Caves. And if you are not a health freak, you don't want to climb Batu Caves at 339 steps, things like that. Essentially, it celebrates the occasion when a goddess gave a spear to Murugan, one of the gods, and told him to go and get rid of those terrible people. I mean, you can call them terrorists, you can call them whatever, but in those days it was less so. And the spear in the Tamil language is called veil, V-E-L, veil. So you'll find that as they travel, all these people in procession, some of them pierce themselves, some of them just carry kavadi, which they call the milk kavadi, without spearing. They will all keep on saying, veil, veil, vadi veil is a god, veil, veil, spear, spear. So, so a rather threatening one. But that's not why we are here. But I thought, you know, it is good to say these things because then you'll get used to my face and my mannerisms, and the people who are latecomers trying to find a parking space will come in without disturbing our guest speaker. So, welcome once again. We are very honored to have our guest speaker here, and we just discovered we have mutual friends in Sionspor, where she comes from, and the Sionspor people were here not too long ago, a few days ago, last week, where we have a joint seminar, annual seminar, once here and once in Paris. So the next one is in Paris. We prefer Paris to here. So, and they prefer Singapore to Paris. So this is the same problem we are having every year. Next year we're going to Paris. Professor Yo will discuss on a very interesting subject about Turkey. And I don't know, you know all about her. What I'm more interested in her is the suggestion at first, where does Europe end when they were thinking of Turkey? But she says it perhaps is different. It is, where does Turkey want to go to? And Turkey today, we think, will be a great player in the next decade. Turkey, Iran, Israel. So I will leave it to our guest speaker. Madam, we welcome you.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Please, we give you the floor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Excellence, for this invitation, and thank you, Dr. Yo, for also the director of the European Center in the US, for inviting me to Singapore. This is my first visit, and I am like, you know, for those who speak French, I feel like Alice au Pays de Merveilles. You know what it is? I don't know how to translate. Is Alice in the wonderful world? What?
Wonderland.
Wonderland. Well, it's really fascinating, and I learned. I was saying this morning that I learned a lot here, and I learned a lot through Singapore. All with the discussions and on the subject that I'm much more interested, like ethnic relations, nationalism, and these kind of issues. But here I'm to talk about Turkey and EU, and talking about nationalism is a part of it, of course. So I would start by asking how to qualify the relationship between EU and Turkey. I would say that it started by reason and by logic, because Turkey was a part of NATO, Turkey was a part of the European Council since 1949, so it was logical that Turkey would be a part of the European community, European economic community. It was a market opportunity first and mainly, and then the relationship has turned into a passion, emotion, when it became an issue of European Union and membership of Turkey. And of course, all this emotion came to the peak with the beginning of the negotiations, in the opening of the negotiations in 2001. So today, 2005, excuse me. So since 2005, with the official opening of negotiations between Turkey and EU, and Turkey is a part of the project of the enlargement of Turkey. How far Europe can go, where Europe stops, this is not the issue, but the issue, actually it will be an issue, and it is an issue when it comes to Turkey. And, but until then, until 2005, there was Brussels commissioners had never formulated, find nuanced and complicated formulations to define the nature of relationship between Turkey and EU. They called it a careful, elaborated compromise, or they suggested a privileged partnership. And in order to finalize, finally initiate the negotiations, to be specified that it nevertheless, and it has never been said before, nevertheless, a matter of an open process whose result, that is the membership, cannot be guaranteed in advance. It has never been happened before because all the enlargement, all negotiations ended up with membership. But can Turkey's accession be assimilated to the enlargement process? On the one hand, yes, because what is required from Turkey is this acquis communautaire and the same political, economic, and social norms as member states, and to adopt the acquis communautaire, the law ensuring the functioning of the EU, its accession in principle resembles to enlargement. But at the same time, the nature of the debates and arguments produced by Turkey's accession rendered its candidacy in a class of its own. With Turkey in Europe, in fact, a question has become civilization. Thank you. Cultural and religious difference. It's also a question of geography and borders. How far does Europe go? How far can Europe go? So one of the specificities of Turkish candidacy is that it served as a mirror for Europe, for its identity. We were talking about yesterday about identity and the minorities and the function of a minority as a mirror to the majority. So it's a mirror for its identity, for its project, and for its essence. It brought all the ambiguity of its definition. Indeed, what is Europe? A market, a political space, or a civilization? Is it an economic machine or a political vision? Is it a new historical reality or a philosophical concept? Is it a geographical space or is it a model of civilization? So all this, Turkey has underscored the paradoxes of its expectations and values. Universality of the European Union, I'm not saying Europe specifically, formulated in terms of human rights as a basis of its identity, if I may put it this way, and European particularism, which is now added to national particularism. Turkey at the doors of Europe has thus made explicit a tension between Europe as inheritance, as heritage, as expressed in the preamble of the Constitution, of the Treaty of the Constitution, and its future and unprecedented ongoing political construction. From this perspective, Turkey, incontestably, being the alternative, the other, that has transformed a rational political project into an irrational discourse in search of a collective consciousness to define belonging of an idea of unity in diversity. What is Europe for Turkey? For Turkey, Europe has been a choice of political modernization, a source of pride for the whole nation. The desire to be a part of the European Union, to have its place in a family photo, as it is being said in Turkey, could thus be perceived as a confirmation of this choice of Westernization at the end of the 19th century. Obviously, this is not the image that is returned to Turkey from the European Union, from a united Europe, which on the contrary, each time reminds especially of its religious difference, even though Turkey has adopted secularism, laïcité, in the French sense, in its constitution in 1922. For Turkey, Europe is today an idea. It was a market first. It was an economic interest first, but today it's an idea. I want to say that it has been a project and inspiration that serves today as a leverage to gear up the political, economic, social, and even cultural life. Social relations, national values, political culture are all evolving under the normative gaze of the European Union and its institutions. Civil society asserts itself through the active effervescence of associations in all domains, human rights, women's rights, religious rights, name it, and has growing importance in political life. The criteria imposed by the Copenhagen Treaty, especially when it comes to human rights, minority rights, gender relations, finds an echo in civil society and its political class. All this is leading Turkey along the path of democratization and, therefore, Europeanization. But Europe is also a reality for Turkey. It's a space of reference for values and mobilization for more than 4 million Turks living, Turkish citizens, living throughout Europe, settled in different European countries, who have been there since the 1960s, for the oldest one. Even a large part of Turkish immigration transmits a negative image which is used by European political class. This population is a part of the European space, circulating between countries and relating the European space to Turkey, and mobilizing for equal rights both in the country of residence and in Turkey. So in this presentation, I would like to see the articulation of all these elements. So what is the European Union? What is Europe? What are kind of relationships we have, institutional or philosophical relations between Turkey and the EU? And then I'll come to the evolution in Turkey and Turkish choice, no, Turkey's choice in between Europeanization and globalization. To say what is Europe, as I said at the beginning, Europe, market, political, modern, civilization, or geography, each enlargement expands its border, includes new states, new territories. It integrates new political traditions, and it takes a new geographical shape. These changes has not so far, will not alter the nature of the question about doubts about its identity, particularly its political identity, or its existence of a European society, or European public space, or civic participation of population inhabiting in Europe. The question remains how to combine the universal idea of Europe with, and the particular, more specifically, the universalist ideology of nation states and the cultural and historical particularism that characterizes each of them. In the course of surrounding the Maastricht Treaty, it was interesting to notice that historians were trying to find a common history to Europe through the process of modernization, enlightenment, economic progress, etc. But the Treaty of Constitution seems to have marked an end to this question for unity and put in the preamble this common heritage, united in diversity, and brings to the surface its contradiction, a contradictory rationale that are a source of tension actually. A rationale of Europe as heritage, and a rationale of union as an ongoing project. As one professor at Sciences Po, Bourlange says, is a political adventure yet to be written. The debate on the Treaty of the Constitution came exactly at the same time as the opening of the negotiations, the decision of Turkey to to open the negotiations in November 2005, and it's a coincidence of calendar. But it placed the rhetorical and juridical aspect of the European project in competition, interestingly. A rhetorical based on universal values, respect of human rights, diversity of peoples, while legal instruments seek to unify this diversity and forge for it a common destiny, while retrospectively ascribing to it a cultural, religious, and spiritual inheritance. This is the paradox of European integration. Despite Europe's lack of unity, Turkish otherness has managed to create an image of Europe unified not around a civic political culture, but around a European us on the basis of the criteria that the European project itself has rejected, and it was conceived and developed, for example, in terms of religious inheritance, of again, in terms of civilization. We all know that European integration is being made between cooperation among states and supranationality. And networks of bilateral and multilateral treaties, as well as collaborated conventions, lead to the elaboration of a framework agreement which all states agree to respect the principles and assure the protection of national minorities. Supranational institutions, guided by the principle of regulating subjects, regulating statist traditions, and political and juridical harmonization, are imposed on states in the name of the general interest, protected by the European Court of Justice. European construction introduces a normative supranationalism. Actually, this normativity is imposed even in neighboring policies with the Treaty of Barcelona, and of course to candidates and to the enlargement. So it's beyond the borders or whatever, beyond the understanding of the EU. It's mission of, it's not the white man mission anymore, burden anymore, but the civilization and human rights mission, not civilization mission around the European Union's member states. So what about Turkey's membership at the EU? As I said, Turkey opted for modernization by Westernization in the 19th century. The young Turks came to France to take the example of the Republic, imported in Turkey, and Turkey has imported this idea of a secular central state. That is the Turkish Republic created in 1923 that defined itself as a Western state to some extent. Modernization has always been Westernization in Turkey, and modernization has always had as reference Europe in Turkey. But Turkey's perception of itself has always been a dilemma. I was born in Turkey, and I can say that it has always been asked, what are we? Are we Europeans? Are we Asians? Are we, never Middle Eastern actually. The question was never raised in terms of Middle Eastern. American scholars put Turkey in the Middle East. But European perception of Turkey is that Turkey is not Europe. Sarkozy was the most explicit president when he was in this campaign, and when he became a president, he said, Turkey is in Asia. Finished. So Turkey, and he raised, for the first time, a geographical question with regard to Turkey. So Turkey is not European in terms of what geography, culture. We learn in geography that Europe stops at the Ural Mountains, so then Turkey was in Europe. But in terms of ancestry, culture, language, Turkey was not in Europe. So what Turkey sees itself as European, perception of Turkey is not European. And now they bring in also religious arguments, cultural arguments, and to be more objective, quote unquote, with regard to norms of the European Union, human rights arguments, religious freedom arguments, etc., are a part, gender equality arguments are a part of the suspicion about Turkey being a part of the European Union. Europe for Turkey is a market, as I said, but it's also a new rhetoric on human rights. It's a new project on its democratization. That is a model of politics. This is a chance for minority rights. It's a chance for linguistic rights. I'm thinking of the Kurds. It's a chance for religious rights. That is this government, the Justice and Development Party that is in power since 2002, is taking over for religious rights by blaming the Turkish severe or what they call oppressive or aggressive secularism in Turkey. There are fears in Turkey about Europe. there has been fears in all member states in Europe. The fears in Turkey is what to do with the army, who is the guardian of this secular state, of this central state and unified state. And what do we do when the, with this subsidiarity and the decrease of sovereignty? And what do we do with ethnic and regional recognition of differences, like the Kurdish issue? And what do we do when we are imposed to recognize the Armenian genocide? So then is a discovery of its own identity that is also a challenge for Turkey. And it's interesting because since all these issues, since the negotiations, the public opinion in Turkey who wants Turkish membership has decreased tremendously. It was around 80% before then. It's coming down to 80% of non-enthusiastic people about Turkish membership. Institutionally, Turkey is a member of the European Council, has become a member in 1949, and ratified the Convention of Human Rights in 1964. Turkey is an important member of the NATO since 1952. Turkey has become a candidate to the CEU, Economic Community, European Economic Community, in 1959, and signed the Treaty of Association of Ankara in 1964, right after the coup in Turkey. In 1996, since 1996, Turkey has been a part of the custom union with the European Union. So it's end of quotas of importation, and there's specific custom rights, but no free circulation of individuals. That is in the part of the Act number 1 of the Treaty of Rome. In April 1987, Turkey is a candidate to membership, accepted in 1989, open to negotiations in 2005. And then they said, before that it was said that Europe was too busy for new Eastern European states, that is in 1989, sorry, and Turkey has to deal with human rights, to manage a peaceful relationship with its neighbors, member states, and the question of Cyprus should be resolved. So Turkish eligibility, but early to open for negotiations in 1989. In 1999, European Council in Helsinki decided that Turkish candidate is based on the same criteria than the other countries, and they should deliver an annual report like any other country. In 2002, they decided that Turkey made progress, and in 2005, they opened to the negotiations. And that is where the emotions got to the peak on both sides. So at that time, the question was, what has Europe to gain with Turkish membership? The question was the capacity of the European Union to absorb a new member. How much Europe can absorb a new member after the enlargement? Enlargement has been considered as a success, not in public opinions, but institutional success. But how much they can absorb more? The other question was much more cultural, the European multiculturalism. Turkey will bring definitely a new element to this diversity in Europe in terms of national diversity, religious, linguistic, and political diversity. All contributing, of course, to the construction of the EU. But the enlargement did not question the plurality of identities in Europe, because it questioned the concept of the public space, of multiplicity of public spaces, and difference of political cultures in this definition of the public space, mainly with the war in Iraq, when we had the East and the West would have different reactions to the war in Iraq that showed the multiplicity of public space and no unity in the understanding of a European space. The other argument, of course, was the compatibility between Islam and Europe and the West. Clash of civilization, again, with Turkey in Europe, or are we beyond? What do we do with Turkish Islam, but Turkish Islam being secular with regard to Islam of the Middle East? But then the issue became again immigration, and all the studies in France show that the Turkish migration was the most communitarian, quote unquote, the most expressing a national and religious feeling against assimilation, etc. So all these arguments were on the floor with regard to the issue. The public opinion then in Europe was divided. The northern countries were against, the south countries were for. Among the four countries, Great Britain is not, of course, in the south, but Great Britain is the most protector of the European Union of Turkey in EU. And you have also Italy, Spain, and Greece. After the earthquake wanted Turkey, they became close and they wanted Turkey into EU. The most against were Austria, Germany, with a more diplomatic language than Sarkozy, when Merkel says that, yes, we should have Turkey with a, what is the language? Voilà. Privileged partnership, thank you. But Sarkozy will say, no way. So Turkey, of course, you can imagine Sarkozy is not the most welcome president in Turkey. So, and the other issue was, again, borders. If we have Turkey into the EU, what would be the new borders of EU? The Middle East, allies with EU and the Middle East, how to compete with America on the Middle East, and do we have does Europe will have a control on the Caucasus through Turkey? So all these questions were on the floor when at the signature of the negotiation. What has Turkey to gain? I would say democratization, because of the supranational normativity, which I will insist on, and an emergence of a plural civil society, which is a part of its democratization. Freedom of religion. I'm not thinking of freeing the society and the nation from secularism, but I'm thinking freedom of religion for other religions that exist in Turkey, and the recognition of the Kurdish issue, and also a reconciliation with history. And Turkey has to gain with Europe, I would say, to realize or to concretize its ambition in globalization. Can Turkey be global, quote unquote, without European Union? But we can witness a democratization of Turkey from below. And there I would put the emphasis on the role of the 4 million immigrants of Turkish nationals living in Europe, mobilizing in different European countries, using this democratic space for their own interests in terms of identity, using the identity politics for mobilization. Actually, yesterday I talked about the Forum des Migrants. This was an organization of migrants, third national migrants that the European Parliament had created. The most mobilized population was the Turkish nationals. I'm not saying Turks because it's not politically correct anymore. Turkish citizens, let's say. Or maybe people from Turkey. And making the most claims were people from Turkey. So that is that they are mobilized on a European level, and they make claims with regard to the state of residence in terms of citizenship, equality, etc. And they make claims with regards to Turkey and to put a pressure through supranationalism and this democratic space on Turkey in the recognition of different languages, like the Kurdish language, or different religions like the Alevi, which is another religion of Islam, another branch of Islam, let's say. On the other hand, within Turkey, this government, in power since 2002, Party of Justice and Development, AKP, has been very active. Maybe this Prime Minister has been the most active and aggressive in pushing the doors of Europe and forcing the EU agenda on religious freedom, push away the army and the guardian of secularism, of course, perceived as oppressive. And we have witnessing the scarf issue is not just for France, the scarf issue is even more virulent in Turkey. And banning the scarf at universities, the religious education at school, and the religious schools, etc., have been all an issue. And lately, in September, there has been a new constitution called the Civil Constitution, written by this government, suggested by this government, and actually, more nuanced, and that has been voted through a referendum, and that had yes for 58% in order to come to a to a more civil constitution, because so far all the constitutions had been written by the army after every coup to some extent, and the last one was in 1982. Not the coup, the constitution. So, Turkey, as a reaction to the European Union, has started to reconceptualize its national identity. Why Turkey should be just Western? Why Turkish identity should be European? Turkey is also Muslim. I mean, population in Turkey is Muslim. Turkey is also Asian. Turkey is also Middle Eastern. So Turkey is at the crossroad of many geographical spaces and identities. Why to opt so obsessionally for the Western aspect of this identity? Why not to bring in all aspects of identity with a common denominator, I should say, being Islam as a common denominator? So why this obsession of Europeanization? Why this obsession of this European identity as a primary identity of Turkey? So then there is a common understanding through the civil society and in politics, of course, and that European identity of Turkey is not the primary identity, is not the priority either. So Turkey is searching its authenticity to some extent. Some will say the normality of the Turkish identity. Then this is reflected in all domains, in the civil society, in foreign policy, in issues like security, thinking of the army, etc. Why the army should be the guardian of this Western understanding of the Turkish state that is secular. Turkey has changed also in the economic development. It adopted the ultra-liberalism, and Turkey has developed tremendously in economy. I'm trying to think if they not imitate Singapore. Turkey has become the 17th richest country of the world. It's a part of the G20. I always say that, and the growth in Turkey is 5.5 today. I always say that I came to France as a country, as a developed child of an underdeveloped country. Now, it's a long time ago. Now today we are thinking that Turkey is a part of a developed world. It has a total change in Turkey, in the functioning of the society even. So this economic growth, this expansion, this ultraliberalism, this wealth has become the new national pride. And Turkey is putting forward this new national pride. And so it's the new foreign policy with a new very dynamic, very active foreign minister, Davutoğlu, who has as a devise, as a slogan, zero conflict with neighbors. If Turkey was, when you learn in school that Turkey has no friends, Turkey is surrounded with enemies, Turkey now should be Greece an enemy, Syria an enemy because they hired Öcalan, the PKK guy. Lebanon is not, Turkey was surrounded by enemies. Today, Turkey has decided to have zero conflict with neighbors. Zero conflict with neighbors will be also a reconciliation with the Balkans, and also good relations with Iran, good relations, of course, the Caucasus. They discovered the Caucasus part with Turgut Özal in the 1980s, when, of course, with the opening, then they said, I remember one of the sentences of Turgut Özal, who was the president at that time, who said, and our ancestors came on horses from the Central Asia. I'm flying there now. So it's reconquest of the Central Asia because of the linguistic affinity with all of these countries, linguistic and religious. Not all of them, but many of them. So then Turkey has decided Turkey is a new challenge in the Middle East. It wants peace in the Middle East, and wanted to be an intermediary in the peace between Syria and Israel. Total failure. That Turkey wanted a reconciliation with Armenia. There was a whole symbolic policy, soft power through the football game, etc. Failure. I'm not criticizing, but I'm saying that this zero conflict with neighbors is not, it's a wonderful idea maybe, but in concrete aspect is not that easy that it seems to be. So some are giving the idea or the ambition to Turkey of a neo-Ottomanism. Is Turkey trying to rebuild the Ottoman Empire? Or with all these areas, with all these geographical areas that were a part of the Ottoman Empire, are we now again in the same sense of getting to this objective? And to give a central, to have a central role maybe in the Muslim world, not just in the Middle East. So the new foreign policy has also a get close also to Iran. Remember, Turkey voted no to the sanction in Iran in the United Nations. And the explanation of Davutoglu for this is that we need to say, to protect Iran, we need to have good relations with Iran in order to be a bridge between Iran and the European Union. So this understanding of a bridge, and only if we are good friends with Iran, we can convince Iran not to have this nuclear, not to be a nuclear power. And then you can have a reconciliation between Iran and the European Union. And then the new foreign policy had a very direct position with regard to Israel, with regard to the Palestinian issue. Of course, Palestinian issue has always been a preoccupation, not only for Turkey, for the whole world. And Israel is a trouble not only for Turkey, for the whole world. But Turkey had a very active position, very aggressive, I would say. And from the first Gaza intervention, which was in December 2008, I think, and until the flotilla, until the ship that went to Gaza, with a rhetoric that is very unpleasant, and with demonstrations on the street that are scary, but I think, but nevertheless, Turkish position, so affirmative position, puts Turkey in a very important position for the Muslim world, and shows its face to some extent in the understanding of politics in the Middle East. So Turkey is now, I don't know what the word in English is, taking the United States in front by challenging the United States, by not being so demanding on the United States. So Turkey is getting more closer to the other emerging countries, as we say, like Brazil. And they signed this cooperation between Brazil, Iran, and Turkey. And also Turkey wants to be present in Africa. This is also a new elan that Turkey is developing by opening new schools in Africa, and where the Turkish language is taught and the Islam is taught in these schools. Actually, these schools are like more than 400 in the world, and not only in Africa. I wonder if you have one in Singapore, the Fethullah Gülen School, and I know there are many in Indonesia, I know there are many in Australia. In Europe, there is only 2 or 3. There are only 2 or 3, etc. And also, they are creating new embassies in Africa. So this is a very active policy of being present in many countries. So and this is a way of asserting a power that is not only economic, but economic being used as a basis on if it's a cultural, religious, linguistic, or geographical power that we interpreted as neo-Ottomanism. When Turkey had the flotilla, even when Turkey signed with Iran, they protected Iran, said no to the sanctions, all the French newspapers, British and German newspapers were afraid that we are losing Europe. Sorry, this is a lapsus. We are losing Turkey. Are we losing Turkey? Where is Turkey going? Is Turkey going away from Europe? Is Turkey rejecting now, renouncing the idea of Europe? Is EU losing Turkey? Then some good wills started to blame the European Union and its rejection, its discourse and rhetoric of rejection of Turkey, saying that we pushed Turkey, if I may put the image, in the arms of the Arab world, in the arms of Islam. We didn't want to reconsider or to think of Turkey as secular. We projected this identity, so here is Turkey making new choices, getting away from Europe. I thought this kind of comments were sort of superficial and not realistic, because I would think that Turkey needs Europe. I'll conclude with this. But even though there are clear developments in this privileged partnership between Europe and Turkey with regard to the police, with regard to the protection, with regard to security, with regard to the defense of the borders, etc. And the European Union is applying, as they say in Turkey, slowly by slowly, this partnership without saying it. And obviously Turkey is also accepting this by doing it. Now the question is, does EU need Turkey? And vice versa, does Turkey need EU? I don't know how the negotiations will end. As it was said in 2005, it might not end with membership. And what does Turkey have to gain with Europe? And what does Europe have to gain with Europe? If Turkey has this big ambition and it's moving forward globalization, is the interest of Europe to have Turkey in it? Some would say yes. I would definitely think yes. But the question then is, does Europe have this ambition of globalization? If Europe does not have the same ambition of globalization, to be a part of the global understanding of politics, they can define a border, stop at the borders of Turkey, Greece, Turkey, Bulgaria, and they don't need to have Turkey. This privileged partnership will be doing what they need to do by crossing borders, cooperating. They have already the custom union, etc. But what about Turkey? Can Turkey achieve globalization, this global ambition, without Europe? I would think no. Turkey needs definitely EU. Turkey needs norms. Turkey needs normativity. And Turkey needs this supranational normativity in order to achieve this goal, this ambition of globalization. I don't believe that Turkey will be respected as a global force, even if the ambition is to centralize, to be at the center of the Muslim world without this supranational normativity, that in terms of human rights, religious freedom, equality of gender, etc. Turkey has always been an example of combining modernity, secularism, and Islam to some extent, but Turkey has to remain an example and remain its exemplarity for the world they are perceiving as maintaining. So I think I will stop here and just to quote Abdullah Gül, who is the president now. He was the foreign minister of foreign affairs when he came to Paris and gave a talk. And the first question that was asked to him was, what about if Turkey does not end up by being a member? He said, I don't care. All I want is to use Europe for the democratization of my country. We'll see at the end. It will be a referendum in France. In France, Chirac had decided that there will be a referendum. And if one country says no to the membership, all countries, it will be no for the whole. It's not like the Treaty of the Constitution. So the French referendum will show what the French will say. But let's say if I have a referendum in my country and they say no, I don't care. I want to achieve all the process of the negotiation, get to the membership criteria, and in order to democratize my country, I owe this to my people, he said. So I will conclude here. And the other issue that now it's become a pride to reject Europe. It's a part of a national pride, which is interesting. A president of an important think tank in Turkey came to Sciences Po not long ago, and he was very excited to say that whenever Tayyip Erdogan, who is the prime minister, goes to Lebanon or to any Muslim country, he is accepted like a rock star. But when he comes to Brussels, he is almost being sent out from the room. So all these issues come into the ambiguity of what Turkey really wants, what the public opinion wants. Is made a question of pride, but I don't think Turkey can get away from the European Union negotiations. And despite the blockage of many chapters, but Turkey needs supranational normativity for its ongoing democratization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much again. This is very fascinating. I'm sure there will be questions and comments. You're welcome. We still have some time, so please, as a courtesy to the speaker, kindly identify yourself and your organization, and anything, questions and comments. Thank you. Yes, please, Patrick.
From me, I have two questions. I think the first question is regarding the trade growth and the trade surplus. Currently, not joining the EU as a membership, being a member. They say Turkey joined as an EU membership. Will it affect the future growth? In a sense, current status, it could be the exchange rate, the Turkish dollars, and besides the competitiveness of your trade and exports using your current currency. But if they say you join the EU, are you looking into the trade surplus and growth in the future? Let's say you are using a euro dollars, will it affect the growth in a sense? Your competitiveness may not be there in a sense that, and you are bound by a lot of constraints and restriction under the EU legislation on the trade issues. Okay, and I got the second question is regarding the in-border diversity. After joining the EU, will you make some comparison in terms of the stability in the Mid-East? Because current role played by Turkey is more on a balance between the East and West, because it's not bound by any restriction on the EU guidelines. But it can play a more flexible role, a more diversified role in terms of as a mediator between Iran and Israel. So it can actually balance out the power and the diversity. So after joining EU, let's say you compare the joining of EU membership, you generally have to follow the guidelines of EU community, and you could not exercise a larger scale of flexibility. Thanks.
Okay, I'm sorry if I understand you correctly, is that you are saying that if Turkey is a member one day, it will come with, membership will come with restrictions, and what will be the restriction on the economic growth and currency, and what will be the restriction on the stability, the Turkish role in the stability of the Middle East? It's for me difficult to answer because I don't do predictions. I don't know. I don't know. That's true that it will limit some freedom of the state. The member state will have some. The EU will put some restrictions on the member state, but I cannot know so far if there will be a membership, at what time of the stability in the Middle East, and what will be the shape of the Middle East when there will be a membership. And on the Turkey has gone through an economic stability and political stability itself, actually, which is very interesting for European investments in Europe, which is they emphasize directly and with an importance this political stability in Turkey. Turkish currency is not dollar; it's Turkish lira, and the reference is more dollar than EU, the American dollar than the euro. And both currencies are always announced everywhere, but and the rate of inflation has stopped, and to some extent, and also Turkey went through a change of its money for this economic stability. So, what kind of restrictions EU will bring, and what will be Turkish marge de manœuvre? I mean, this margin of acting in economy and in the Middle East. Let's see. Let's wait and see. If ever.
From the EU guideline, I believe there could impose a limit on the number of exports. Okay, you want to export a certain quantity, you must meet the EU guideline that each country can only export this certain amount, or there could be a restriction on the trade.
No, Turkey is a part of the European, the Union. Custom union, so there is no restriction, there is no quota for exportation of Turkey, there is no quota for importations for Europe.
But joining EU is a full member.
Patrick, I think I want to give the other session. Sorry. How many questions do we have, so I can get a number of questions, okay?
I have
Please,
just a few questions.
you don't mind
and
I
few
get a few
remarks.
questions? And then
No, sure, I have to write them down.
Thank you. Turkey is clearly in this very strategic position of choosing between two strategic options, if I may say.
This was not my title, Turkish choice. I
Yeah.
don't give any choice to Turkey. They have to be in Europe.
Okay. What is important, significant actually, is the position of the Turkish military in whatever direction that Turkey will eventually take. My question will be at two levels. One, what is the military's position with this drive for democratization through the EU? Will that process not be at the expense of the military? Secondly, on the flip side, what if the direction goes the other way, not to go into the EU, but to go towards the Middle East? Would that also not sort of disturb the military's position? In the end, so basically, what is the position of the Turkish military in all this, as I see, strategic shift that is happening in Turkey? Thank you. Sorry, my name is Yang Razali. I'm from the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies at NTU, Nanyang Technology.
My name is Özkan Duman. I'm from Turkish Embassy, Deputy Head of Mission, Second Secretary. First of all, I would like to thank you, Professor, for this challenging presentation. I would like to thank the organizers for hosting you here today. I have a few questions and few remarks, if you would allow me. First of all, I found the way you put globalization and Europeanization in the title and during the presentation a little bit problematic, because the way you put it sounded like they are mutually exclusive, but in the Turkish case, actually, they are like overlapping and reinforcing each other. Like Europeanization might be classified as an undercurrent of globalization in the Turkish
That's what
case.
I said.
Yes, the way that we put here in the title, whether it's Turkey's choice or whether it's Europe's choice, actually, when it comes to Turkey's membership to the EU, I think Europe ends where the EU wants itself to end, and where the EU sees itself in the next like 10, 20 years. If the EU wants to be a key global economic and political power, then Turkey, as you said, one of the top 17 economies in the world with young, dynamic population, has a definite place in the future of the EU. And regarding the alternatives to membership that you mentioned during your presentation, like privileged partnership, open-ended negotiations, I think Turkey's European vocation is simply being sacrificed to petty domestic politics in some such European countries like France, Austria, and Germany, especially with regard to the 4 million immigrant workers living in those countries. By looking at their level of integration, they are judging the Turkey's EU vocation, which is not fair, actually. And the EU itself, there are a couple of scholars who are arguing that the EU has changed the rules of the game during the negotiations, and it turned itself to a moving target. So what do you think about that? And there are some scholars who are arguing whether the EU should adopt multi-variable geometry or multi-speed Europe. What do you think about this? And finally, I would like to say that the pronunciation of some such arguments like privileged partnership, open-ended negotiations, and the others simply underline the transformative power of Europeanization in Turkey and contribute to the rise of Euroscepticism in Turkey and lead to a nationalist backlash in Turkey. I think the EU policymakers should be a little bit more careful about the pronunciation of these alternatives. So far, these are all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marina Kramer. Is this working?
yes, it is.
Yes, good. Firstly, thank you very much. This was very interesting. I especially appreciated the part concerning Turkish identity today. And from what I gather from what you said is basically, for me, there is a bit of a dual mentality. One is on the traces of Ataturk and the young Turks going towards the European Union, going towards the West, towards modernization in a very wide sense. And on the other hand, we also have neo-Ottomanization, as you mentioned, which is probably represented by the current Prime Minister Erdogan, especially in the eyes of the West, I would say, because of some of the measures or alleged measures that you want to undertake. My question is, why this fixation of Turkey to become member? Why not a privileged partnership, especially in the view of these two mentalities? Why not stay this privileged, powerful broker between the two civilizations, if you like? Why this insistence? With this, I have to say, I think, I personally think that Turkey should be a member of the EU, but maybe, and from what you have described it, there is maybe even a more interesting and more powerful position for Turkey to take in this world. Thank you.
We have
When am I allowed to answer?
Yes. After this,
hello, my name is Isabel van der Kerke. I'm an exchange student from Holland, and I've had already a few talks on this subject because I was a member of the European Parliament for Students. So I am, first of all, I would like to state that I am not against Turkey as a member of the European Union, but I feel like it's way too soon right now. What I miss in the talk is that, especially in Holland, but also a lot of other parts in Europe, we have a lot of immigration issues with the Turkish citizens. I heard a little bit about that in the talk, but I would like to have more information about that. I also feel like there are really a lot of differences in Turkey itself. The west part is very modernized, the east part not so much. And within Turkey, in the sense of...
Just a question.
Okay.
I haven't been everywhere.
Okay. And I also feel like the economical crisis that is now going on in Europe is a very important one to take in account in this talk. Because I feel we in Europe need to focus on development first, because we find ourselves in a very difficult situation right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. She would like to answer. Then if there is time, we'll come back to the two of you. Thank you.
Okay. Just to remind the idea, Turkey between globalization and Europeanization was my title. I didn't put any choice to Turkey. For me, Turkey does not have a choice. If it wants to be a global power, it has to be Europeanized. And I didn't put a dilemma to Turkey to choose between the two. And I don't think the political class uses a dilemma between the two. But the European public opinion, the European way of the changes of the discourse, of the rhetoric, the changes of the criteria after the beginning of the negotiations, which has never happened with any other country, has brought the public opinion to be suspicious, Eurosceptic, as you say. That brought maybe this idea of Turkish choice, but public opinion is not even less today in Turkey with politics. So that's not what I would say. That's true, I didn't mention the demography in Turkey. It's a young population, and the fertility growth is a little bit higher than Europe. And I have a colleague in Oxford, Calypso Nicolaidis, who talks about Turkey as the Viagra of the European Union. So this is her formula, and I don't know where she got it, but she repeats this everywhere. So to come to this dual mentality, is Turkey would be more powerful with partnership, this privileged partnership? I don't know. At this stage, Turkey and EU have signed the treaty, they are in the process of negotiations. EU is blocking some chapters, has been blocking chapters. EU, as Monsieur said, it has added new criteria. So it's always a new thing that Turkey has to face, to where Turkey will say no, stop, or when Turkey will say, okay, this is a part of my democratization and we'll do it. Why insistence? Why insistence? There's something important to understand. EU cannot, it's a very important leverage in Turkish political, social, cultural life. So if you take this away from Turkish understanding of development, economic development, well, it's like it's like a challenge to Turkey to get there. And if not, what would be these political classes, all kinds of tendencies, all approaches, all the parties that have been taking Turkey to this stage in the EU. Turkey cannot get away from this idea of being a member. It will or it will not. Today, Turkey cannot allow itself to get away from EU membership. So, with regard to the army, Monsieur can answer better this question actually. He's the embassy from the embassy. Of course, it's weakening the army. But EU has always had this role on any member states in terms of sovereignty, in terms of internal decision, in terms of restriction that was mentioned, etc. But in Turkey, specifically with this government, of course the army is an obstacle to its understanding of Turkish politics. And on this side, maybe that's why this government has been more eager, more aggressive, more initiative, more pushing the EU door, EU gate to get it to be a member. And what will be the army in the Middle East, you said? So far, Turkey is still a member of the NATO, and Turkey will remain, I think, a member of the NATO. So it has some understanding and cooperation. You can correct me on this, actually. I'm not international relations, but this is the way I would feel, I would understand the role of the army. In the Middle East, is this reaction towards Israel via America, America via Israel? That is not very clear. Actually, it's very clear, but what comes first, I don't know. So the army has been weakened. The policy of security has been taken over from the army, and this government is pushing this as much as they can to weaken the army in politics. And like any other European member states and in any other democratic society, then to limit maybe the army to its role of defense and not into internal politics. Immigration. I can talk 4 hours on this, but I won't. Immigration is an important subject for Turkey and for Europe. And immigration from Turkey, immigration. I think I agree with Monsieur that it's unfair to project an idea of Turkish development, backwardness, Islamization, or whatever you want to call, this image of Turkey through immigration. First of all, Turkish immigration is as diverse as the Turkish society itself. You have all sorts and all levels of integration into European societies. You have all sorts and all kinds of claims of political mobilization with regard to before states and before supranational institutions. So Turkish integration, and I did a whole research yesterday, you were not there, on, I think, no, where is not, on Turkey, France and Germany, and my question was, when the issue was citizenship, my question was, regarding Turkish integration in Germany, economic integration of the Turks in Germany, my question was, what is a better understanding of citizenship? An economic integration and exclusion from political rights, or a political integration into political rights with the exclusion from the society, which was the case of France. Of course, in the best of the world, you want to have both. But in the case of Germany, in Turks in Germany, I can see today that Germany has succeeded better in the integration of Turks than France has done with North Africans and in general immigration. So the economic crisis is an important element to take into consideration in this talk, and I didn't. Because I didn't think it was important in this relationship. Turkey is not going through this crisis. Turkey has been very proud, saying that I can help Greece. I can help this and that. This economy is a pride in Turkey. That all over Europe, I know in France we are crying about crisis. We cried for Greece, we are crying for Portugal, we are crying for Ireland, etc. Turkey is far beyond on these issues, or far away from these issues, or maybe not included in these issues, which is a good thing for Turkey to some extent, that will not have to share all these resources with other member states in this. So I don't think it's an important element to take into consideration into this debate between Turkey and EU relationship today. Another question? No? Did I answer everybody?
We still have a few. Please. No, they're coming now. We have 15 minutes, so please keep it short so it will be helpful to get everybody's views.
Talking about the Europeanization, right? The term speaks for himself. It's the process of becoming European. Now, becoming European in terms of heritage for Turkey and for the Balkans is out of the question. I mean, for obvious reasons. In the Anatolian plateau, there was quite a long string of civilizations that influenced and made Europe what it is today. But I would like to ask you, if you were to balance between the problem of Turkish immigrants in Europe and the Balkan identity, grassroots and national identity discourse that you can find all over the Balkans and Turkey. Giving you an example, in schools you would always have Serbian or Bulgarian or Turkish children being taught that they were once a great state, but out of treason they became at one point weak, and this kind of discourse has spread over the Balkans regarding national identity. Do you think is kind of balancing in the Europeanization issue, the Balkan identity discourse?
Please introduce yourself.
Please identify yourself.
Tudor Vladescu, Asia Research Institute.
Can you summarize in one sentence the question, because I'm not sure I understood exactly what the question is.
Like in terms of coming into Europe, would you think that the immigrants, the Turkish immigrants, would weigh more than the fact that Turkey is actually part of the Balkans, which is part of Europe, in terms of local identity?
Okay.
Wilhelm Hofmeister from Konrad Adenauer Foundation, Germany. You did not talk about economy because you said it is not so important, but I would say, with regard to the crisis,
No,
yeah, okay. But I would say, in my feeling, most European leaders see the dilemmas you have presented here, that there are good reasons pro and some aspects may be not so favorable towards Turkey's integration into the European Union. But I think the main reason actually, which produces a lot of difficulties, is economy. It is not economy in this form of economic system, but in the form of costs for the European Union to integrate Turkey. Turkey is you mentioned the population. By population, the biggest state already in Europe. It's already a little bit bigger than Germany, and it will grow. Germany will decrease. Turkey is by far the country with the lowest per capita income, and it will be the country with, with regard to Romania and so on. But in the average, Turkey is with regard to population and income, it's a low-income country in the European Union, and all this means that the economic weight for the European Union to integrate Turkey would be very heavy. Actually, we are trying to integrate another group of states, and you see it's rather difficult to conclude this process of integration. We have a lot of institutions, but also a lot of economic problems, and integrating Turkey would mean that we would have to change completely all the policies of transfer of funds within the European Union. And I don't know who actually will pay this funds in the European Union. That's a problem. Nobody here. And Germany is paying now a lot for our neighbors who are already within the European Union. And I would say it is actually not possible for us to take this burden. And I don't see anybody else who will pay for it. And that's a problem. So we have, unfortunately, we have to ask our Turkish friends to wait some more years. I'm convinced that one day Turkey maybe will join the European Union. But at this moment and for the foreseeable next 5, 7, 10 years, I don't see it really.
Thank you, sir. I think.
Thank you very much. I'm Professor Kastoryano. I'm at the Middle East Institute. And now, as I see your title, between globalization and Europeanization, Turkish choice, I understand that one, you want to say that globalization meaning interest motivation of the Turkey, Turkey's economic interest mainly. And Europeanization is how it wants to redefine or define its identity. But you didn't say the Turkish choice. So I have a problem with your Turkish choice in your presentation.
Okay, why did you do this?
Because
This is not us.
choice is that what are the driving forces you didn't identify, particularly in terms of Turkish domestic politics. I'm very interested to know that the role of the AKP, this Justice and Development Party. So it wants to say that Turkish wants to internationalize more and more, globalize more and more. But at the same time, they want to pursue the second route now, the Europeanization.
Prof, you have a question?
So my question is, what is the main driving force of the Turkish choice?
This one.
Hello.
You don't have much time.
I'll keep it very quick.
Okay.
Okay.
Very quickly, everybody promises this.
Okay. My name is Prof. I'm from RSIS. My question is essentially this. In your opinion, does the European Union necessarily have to be European? Okay. Now, and I'm asking this because I think that the arguments against, Turkey joining for geographical and religious and reasons for identity are as ridiculous and ironic as they are embarrassing. I mean, first of all, you have a chunk of France, in Latin America. You have Malta, that's really close to Libya than anything else. You have Cyprus, further away actually than Turkey. You have the questions of identity. You have, the British. They don't see themselves as Europeans. You just have to read Agatha Christie, and they say that this Hercule Poirot, we can't trust him because he doesn't share our values. The Scandinavians, I mean, when it comes to the Finnish, they're happy that they're anything, and as long as they're not Russian. And in terms of religion, I mean, the Anglicans, they say, why should we pay for our salvations when looking at the Catholics, and the Swedes, they think, why should we have religion at all? Do you think that it would be easier for Turkey to join the European Union? Would it be easier for Turkey to join the European Union? Would the Europeans be more willing to accept it if the European Union was not called the European Union, it was maybe called the Union of Liberal Democracies? Which is
the last one. This is really and totally and completely the last one.
I'm a visiting professor at the NUS. I'm originally from Turkey. I live in Canada now. Thanks for the talk. I have actually a problem with the fact that you said Turkey does not have a choice. I agree with you. Then you were actually a bit more nuanced in your response, in the sense that it is easy for me to agree with you that Turkey does not have a choice in working on this European agenda. As part of it is what I would call normalization process or democratization process, and perhaps redefining it or maturation of its discussion on its own identity and so on. But when it comes to really globalization, I don't see that there has to be such a strong link between Europeanization and globalization. To me, it seems that in the end of this process, Turkey might just as well basically decide, hell with it, I'll be a global player, and I don't want to play in the European arena. And for some reason, I don't see that strong connection between the two that you said that it's not an option. To me, it is an option in the end game.
Thank you. Prof.
Okay. It's an option at the end. We are not at the end.
Right. Correct.
So far, it's not an option. In order to get to the end, it has to go through the process of Europeanization. At the end, they might say, okay, they don't want us, we don't want them, stop. But during the process of negotiations that have started, Turkey has to go along with this negotiation process until it says one of the sides say no. So it's not, okay, I didn't say a choice. I didn't use this word. I don't know what imagination brought you to this choice. But I liked it. I liked it because, again, at the end, there might be a choice. When is the end? Where is the end? What is the right moment? Will be another question. We are not there yet. As we are not there at how much Turkey will cost to the European Union.
Obviously, we are there.
Huh? Pardon?
We are there. Everybody's thinking about costs.
Yeah, but Turkey is already getting funds from the European Union. And some other European, when Portugal became a member, Turkey, it was at a much lower level than Turkey is today. When Greece became a member, of course, it was like, I don't know, in the 70s, it was much lower. Turkey's, okay, the PIB by population low, it's a low income, maybe, I'm not economist, we have an economist here who can tell you maybe, but here actually the issue is not, Turkey is getting funds. Turkey is not getting as much funds as Poland, as Romania, as Bulgaria. It's a small country. Turkey, Europe has other projects of enlargement. It's not done. You'll have the Balkans, the rest of the Balkans to be member of the. So Turkey, we can talk about the cost of the Turkey in the European Union when it will become a member and the membership, how much it will cost, when it will be decided. We are not there yet. Maybe it's soon. It's soon maybe for this assumptions, for this hypothesis. There are some, I'm sure, I'm not economist. Economists make calculations of the trends, when it will come with the predictions of the economies, etc. But so far I can say that the Turkey is in the process. The process is open-ended process. We don't know when it will end again. And then how much Turkey's membership will cost to the European Union at that time. If Turkey continues its growth with 5.5 today, etc., I don't know if it will get there. So the other issue of Europe is not European Union is not Europe, and I'm glad the European Union is not Europe. And because if we had the debate around Europe rather than the European Union, it would have been much more in terms of identity, civilization, whatever identity you take in, etc. Whoever defines itself as European, as an island, yes, in, no, out, Finland, Russia, etc. I don't know. Identity is a very tricky topic, and you know that it changes, and you know what is more, that is instrumental as well. So EU of liberal democracies is a dream. It was a dream actually at the beginning of Jean Monnet, and but you know it's becoming a political entity, and with much more a normative approach to politics in discourse, and much more maybe identity definition of its own internal definition. Look, member states are reacting to EU. We have Le Pen. And we have other extreme right parties who are using EU. We saw the Netherlands' reactions to the Treaty of the Constitution. So there's no such thing as EU is not Europe. EU identity cannot be considered as European identity in the understanding of EU. It has become so, thanks to Turkey, I would say. And so I answered your question on normalization and globalization. I see another question, Europeanization and AKP, main course of Turkish choice. What was the question again?
Driving
The
forces.
driving
What will be
force.
the driving forces that will determine Turkey's choice?
What will be the driving force that will determine Turkish choice?
Whether it's internal, external, what will depend driving forces that will ultimately affect, I think, Turkey's decision in that sense.
Because you are talking more from the European point, but what's the Turkish point?
Turkish point in rejecting membership?
No. In this equation between globalization and Europeanization, how they will charge.
Again, my argument is Turkey cannot achieve its ambition of globalization without Europeanization.
That's no.
That's
not.
no?
Is it true?
This
If you
is
achieve
the way-
globalization, then what matters in Europeanization?
Europeanization for Turkey are norms, supranational normativity, and norms that Turkey needs in the rhetoric for its democratization. And this democratization, this understanding of democratization of Turkey through normativity, supranational normativity, I'm not talking about Europeanization anymore in the same way, but as it's the Westernization process. Through this supranational normativity, Turkey will weigh much more on a global level as a global actor that will get more respect in the global area. This is my interpretation of my readings of discourses, speeches, mobilization of the AKP.
So AKP is a part of the democratization process.
Of course,
Yeah.
that's what they see. They think they are,
Yeah.
and that's what they are fighting for. Is Erdogan pushed the door of Turkey, of EU so much? It's because of its understanding of democratization. What is his understanding of democratization? Again, to get away of the army, religious freedom, to soften secularism and gender equality, but all this process are approved, this new constitution, all this process put forward by the AKP government is approved by the European Union. So in this sense, AKP is the party that has been taking Turkey towards democratization, within and without. It is perceived like this, and he sees this like this. I'm not saying this is the truth of the wrong thing. I don't know. I mean, I'm not talking about the truth. I'm talking about the perception and the interpretation of politics in Turkey today.
Thank you very much. You will agree with me that this has been a very feisty and very impressive presentation. Please join me in thanking the good professor. We also would like to give you something. We wanted to give you the big prize, but we thought we'll give you this.
Thank you very much.
And you know, I'm instructed to do this by the good Professor Hudson. He said, give the lady something nice. No, they will notice it. Please.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We have no more of these, in case anyone. Thank you very much. Thank you for being a good audience and sticking
And
to
thank
time.
you for your questions.
Thank you.
Questions. And thank you for this title that raised so much questions.